Is your fearless leadership's better half better looking, funnier, nicer, cooler? The one you want to grab a beer with on the weekends? The one and only Trash Panda, here to welcome you in my own way to the 2021 Deplorable Ones fantasy football season. So, special welcome, first off, to our two brand new members. Best of luck to you this year. We are a competitive league. We take our fantasy football seriously here. And so good luck. And if everything pans out, I hope to see you for a long time as an owner here. I have some points to cover here, and this is my second run through of a long video. So I'm going to try and make this faster than the last one and better because I had to delete it. So getting right into it, IDP scoring. Trump mentioned it yesterday or Monday that we reneged on a vote that was made last season about IDP scoring. You guys voted not to change it. And as a leader, sometimes you have to make the right choice, even though it's not the popular choice. And in this situation, I'm a defensive-minded guy. It's my favorite side of the football. It's what I played when I played football. Our defensive scoring was, for the most part, irrelevant. We might as well have just gone with team defenses and rolled that out. Some of you probably would have gotten a better score on a team defense situation than you would have on IDP scoring. If you don't care about defensive players or you don't think they should score respectable amounts, then why are you in an individual defensive player league? We chose to do this because defensive players are valuable as individuals, not just as a team, and their scores should reflect that to an extent, okay? I understand that you guys are not a fan of the idea that you have a linebacker scoring you 25 to 30 points a week. There are leagues that do that, and we are not one of them, and my changes didn't do that either, I promise you. The changes were small. I tried to take into consideration the fact that you guys did vote not to do this, so the changes are minuscule. Literally a quarter point to certain categories, just to try and bolster specifically defensive backs and defensive linemen. They were the two most lacking roster spots that we had as far as depth of players that you could grab. And I'm sorry, flat out, that's wrong. So I'm going to get into it here and kind of explain to you guys a little bit of what I changed. So tackles for loss were 1.5 points last season. They've been adjusted to 1.75 points this season. Assisted tackles were 0.5 points last season. They are statted out at 0.75 points this season. Interceptions, now I was going to bump them up regardless, but when I looked at last season's scoring, they were 3.5 points. So I don't know if that got changed after the fact by someone by accident or if they were like that the whole season, but that's what I wanted them to be anyway. So they're at 3.5 points per interception. Sacks have gone up a half point. They are now 3.5 points per full sack, 1.75 points for a half sack. And then passes defended were 1.5 points last season. They are 1.75 points this season. So that's the changes I made. Again, 0.25 points here and there. That's it. But you're probably wondering, what's that going to do in the long run? So Jordan Poyer, safety for the Buffalo Bills. He was the highest scoring safety in our league last year at 140 points. Under the new rules, his total would have been 151.5 points or 11.5 points difference. So it's less than a point per week difference. So changes are not that crazy at all. It's designed to raise the ceiling and raise the floor and add depth. That's the three main reasons why we did this. We're trying to add depth, raise the ceilings, raise the floors a little bit. So that was the safety. That's the defensive back position. Defensive end, Jason Pierre-Paul. He was the highest scoring defensive lineman last year. Last year he had 117.5 points. This year, well, not this year, but under the new rules, he would have had 130.75. That's a difference of 13.25 points. Again, not a huge difference, less than a point per week. Looking at specifically, so Xavier Howard, he had the highest number of interceptions last year. He scored 115 points in the league last year. Under the new rules, he would have been at 123. So an 8-point difference. So the number one interceptions in the league. He also had 20 passes defended, by the way. Just in case you were wondering. Doesn't that blow your mind? 20 passes defended. His difference was 8 points. I mean, minuscule. You're talking about a half point per week. Sack leader and all-around best defensive lineman in the league, Aaron Donald, finished with 114 points last year. Under the new rules, it would have gone up to 128.75. So that's just under a point per week again. So, I mean, the differences aren't huge. It's literally an effort to try and help us all out in the long run by adding value and adding depth to the defensive positions. So those of you in the know that have been doing IDP for a while know that linebackers tend to benefit the most off of scoring changes. So, little rant here. I did all sorts of research to try and perfect this for all of us, to find a scoring format and set point totals that were standard or acceptable by most professionals. And the reality is that it doesn't exist. I did podcasting, I did online articles, you name it. I searched high and low everywhere for scoring format that is perfect for IDP, and it literally doesn't exist. And the reason why is because of the linebacker position. So I chose the number one linebacker last year, Devin White. His scoring total last year was 180 points. Under the new format, he has 200. So that's 20-point difference. Just over a point per week difference. And that's actually pretty reasonable, especially when you think this is the number one linebacker in fantasy football in our league last year. And he only had a 20-point upswing. You're also looking at the best of the best. This is the best of the best from last year. And I just wanted to gauge the differences and understand, how much these scoring totals are going to impact the overall totals and end of season numbers for defensive players. And I think this is all reasonable. It's going to raise that ceiling just a little bit. It's going to add that depth just a little bit. Emphasis on, obviously, game-changing defensive plays, sacks, passes defended, interceptions. Those all change the course of a game. And so they should be rewarded a little bit more. But yeah, so those are the changes I made. Nothing crazy. I think most of you probably won't even notice. But I really think that once season end happens, you guys are going to be thanking me for these changes. For some of you, by the way, King Turd of Shit Mountain, while I was looking at these players, I couldn't help but notice that I think 3 of them were on your roster. Now I know how you did it. You ain't going to be able to do it again. Asshole. Just kidding. But anyway, when you have that week where that 0.25 points gets you a victory, you're going to be thanking me. And alternatively, if you're on the losing end of that, you're probably going to be a little frustrated, but chances are it'll benefit you somewhere down the road if it hadn't already, and somebody else is going to get burned by it and get mad too. That's the nature of fantasy football, guys. We have a tendency to appreciate things that benefit us and scorn things that don't. And it's all subjective. It's all based on, well, it's all perspective, I guess, really. It's based on my perception. If it fucked me over, why do I like it? If it benefited me, I'm all for it, and everybody else that doesn't like it sucks. We're going to have to get over that. Sacrifices have to be made. You're not always going to win every battle. Not every game-breaking thing is going to swing your way. It's the nature of the beast. It's why we love fantasy football. And, yeah. So I made those changes. I am sorry. I will publicly go on record. I pushed this. I was pushing it all season long last year, and Trump is the one that said that we should put it to league vote, and you guys voted no, and I don't want to be the guy that uses executive authority to throw votes away, because this isn't my league, and it's not necessarily Trump's league, and it's not just the 2 of ours league, it's all of ours. It is a 12-member league, and I want everybody to feel like they have a voice, and I want everybody to feel like their opinion matters, which is why we put things up for vote. It's because we want you to feel like your opinion matters, and making a choice like this wasn't easy, but I really feel like it had to be done. And I really think that most of you will agree with me come season end when your defensive players feel like they made a little bit more of an impact. And again, if you don't want defensive players to make an impact on your team, why are you playing in an individual defensive player league? Go find your stupid ESPN league where you start 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs and a team defense and a place kicker, and do it the way that they've been doing it for the last 20 years. We like to be game changers here. We like to skirt the norm. We like to be bold, and we like to do things the way we feel like they should be done. And individual defensive players is the way fantasy football should be played. And as a result, individual defensive player scoring should matter. And so, again, I'm sorry that I trumped your votes and took executive authority on this matter, but it is truly something that I'm passionate about, that I feel like you guys will appreciate come season end. So, I'm sorry, but it had to be done. And you'll thank me later. So, moving on to the next thing. I want to talk a little bit about the review videos. So, yes, they are coming back, whether you like them or not. They're coming back. They're fun. They're awesome. They get me in front of you guys. They got Spencer Strasmore did one last year, so people got to see him and see what he was all about. And Trump did a couple last year. It's where everybody finally figured out how ugly he was. I mean, but when you're comparing it to me, everybody's ugly. But anyway, so the review videos are awesome, and I love to do them. They are truly a blast. I put way more time into them than I probably should. You don't have to, but I encourage you, do it. If you have a matchup coming up with somebody that you particularly dislike, that you want to talk loads of trash on, a review video is great. It is great to do a review video so you can talk your trash. You can do an after the fact gloating, or you can do a league preview trash talk if you want. And it's just fun and it's engaging, and I encourage anybody and everybody that even has a thought to do it. Just do it. I'm a giving person. I will hand that responsibility off to you gladly. And so another thing about the review videos, when I do them, I will be hiding little tasks in them for everybody to do, whether that's posting on the message board on our league homepage, or posting a trash talk video for your upcoming matchup, or a variety of things. I'm trying to gauge really how involved people are. Do you watch the league videos? Do you ignore the league videos? Do you care enough to do them? Do you watch them and just ignore what I have to say because it doesn't matter to you? Who knows? But I will be assigning tasks. Most of them will be group tasks, like everybody do this, everybody do that. But if there are a couple owners where I feel like you're lacking a little bit in the involvement department, I might call you individually out, and I might put you on notice and say, hey, Nailbender, you need to do a smack talk video for your upcoming matchup against Foosball, because Foosball was just telling me the other day that he saw you sniffing socks at the Walmart clothing department, and he thought that was a little weird. So keep an eye out. Watch the league videos. Participate and do the league videos if you want. Because starting this year, we are going to start getting a little bit more critical with our ownership. Now, it's going to be a gradual process. We aren't going to throw you into the fire this year or anything like that. But me and Trump have a solid vision for this league. We started it because we felt like we could create a league where there were 12 members that came back every year for 10 plus years. We all interacted. We all had an understanding with each other. We all talked our trash. We all lifted each other up. We all were involved. I mean, this is a community. It's an online community, but this is a community. And be a good neighbor. Be a good owner, and participate. So we are going to be grading you guys amongst the two of us based off of some general categories. Things like roster management. Are you setting a lineup every week? Are you working to improve your roster on a weekly basis? Again, we aren't going to force you to do things. We're not going to force you to trade. We're not going to force you to go to the waiver wire. But if you're holding on to 5 wide receivers and you only have 2 running backs, and your 2 running backs are trash, and you know you have to start both of them every week, we kind of hope that you're going to, maybe go to the waiver wire and drop a couple of your wide receivers that do nothing but ride your bench every week, and pick up, say, a backup running back that's gotten a little bit of extra play time because the starter has been underwhelming so far. Not every move is a successful move, but every move is a good move because it shows that you're trying to improve yourself, right? We're also going to be grading you on your involvement. Who's talking trash? Who's posting smack talk videos? Who's taking a league review video off of my hands for a week? Who is initiating trade requests? Who is responding to trade requests? Trump mentioned it in the video that he posted, but I'm going to just double down on that. If you receive a trade request, he said 3 days, I think, and I think that's too many. 2 days max. And that's if you have an excuse. I honestly think that you should have a 24-hour window, but I'm going to give you 48. 2 days worth of time to respond to a trade request. And when I say respond, I don't mean hit no or decline. I mean, there's a comment box. If you don't want to trade, period, don't just decline it. Say, I don't trade in the comment box. If you aren't interested in any of the players that I have at all, and you don't want to touch my roster with a 10-foot pole, I'm not interested in trading with you. If you have a player on my roster that you're looking at, say, I'm willing to trade for this player, and this is what I would give you. Or I'm willing to take that player. Who do you want on my roster, right? There's a comment box for a reason. It's so you can explain your choice. So do that. Explain your choice. Tell me why you don't want to trade. If it's because you just have a no trade clause in your life, cool. I'll never ask again. If it's because you're not interested in my roster, cool. I'll never ask you again. If I'm asking for the wrong players or I'm bargaining the wrong players, tell me that so that I can adjust and I can make a move, right? Nothing sucks worse than trying to do something and getting zero feedback on the matter at all. And like, think about that in life. Like your wife or your husband or, you know, your ambiguously gay partner. You guys, have they ever made a choice without telling you or asking your input that just pissed you off? You're like, why didn't you ask? Or like, they go to get ice cream, but they never say like, hey man, do you want some ice cream? And so they come home and they got ice cream in their hands and you're like, whoa, I wanted some of that. Communicate. That's all we're asking. Communicate and do it. Do it as if it's your time that you're wasting, not my time. Does that make sense? No, you hate it when people waste your time. Imagine the old lady in the grocery line who's grabbing one item out of the cart, even though she has a whole entire conveyor belt to stack with stuff. She's just one at a time. It's like, hurry up, lady. I got places to go. Act like you're wasting your time when you respond to a trade request. Okay, that rant's over. So, yes, communication is going to be a huge deal. I pushed it all last season, and I will push it again all this season because it matters to me, and it matters to the success long-term of this league. We want you all to be here in 10 years. But you're not going to stay somewhere where you don't feel connected, right? You're not going to stay somewhere where you don't feel like you're engaged with anything outside of setting a lineup and waiting, right? So engage yourself. Engage yourself, and then we all can be happy for the next decade. So that's going to be a big deal. And then I had one more thing. I'm going to skip it because it doesn't matter. I'll tell you about it in 2 more seasons when that rule can actually apply. But right now it doesn't, so I'm just going to pass on. But so we will be grading you guys from afar. There's still going to be a lot of leeway. There was a lot of leeway given to owners last year. There were probably 4 or 5 of us that were regular interaction, communicating back and forth on the message boards and stuff, and then the rest of you were just quiet. A couple of you started towards the end of the season, but hit it strong. For the two new owners, I understand it can be a little hard getting into a brand new league where you're with, 10 different, 11 strangers that you barely know. It can be a little intimidating, but I promise you, if they can't talk trash, they're not in here. If they can't take trash talk, they're not in here. So be bold, be brave. We'll take it on the chin. And if there are any kind of disputes over what he said or she said or what they did or didn't do, that's where me and Trump excel. We excel in diffusing situations. At least I do. Apparently all he wants is compliments because he wants to live in the delusional world that he's an attractive, funny, cool guy. You ain't me, bud. You ain't me. And in closing, so I want to talk about setting up a keeper system. So for those of you that don't know what a keeper system is you get a roster holdout from last season. For the two new members, it would be the previous owner's roster. So make sure I don't know if you can look at that, but if you ask, we'll have the rosters available for you to look at. And so essentially you get to choose one player. In our league, it's one player to keep from last year's roster. And this is basically the way the rules are set up, okay? If you choose a keeper, they are at minimum a 6th round draft pick. So if you choose a keeper, you are sacrificing your 6th round draft pick at minimum for that player. So I had James Robinson last year, and he was a late round draft pick or just a last minute free agency pickup. I don't remember. I traded for him. But so he was late rounds, like 13, 14, 15 beyond, okay? And so I can keep him this season if I want to, but he's going to cost me a 6th round draft pick minimum. Like, that's it. Okay. Let's say you had a defensive player that you picked up in the 6th round. He then becomes a 5th round draft pick. So whatever round they were drafted in, starting with the 6th round, they take your previous round's pick. So a 6th rounder takes the 5th round pick. A 5th rounder takes the 4th round pick. You cannot select anybody that was taken within the first 3 rounds. Those guys are off limits to keep. They have to go back into the community pool for the draft. But anything past that 3rd round, so 4th round back, you can keep. You can only have the same keeper for 2 consecutive years. So if I chose James Robinson this year, I could select him again next year. But then after that year, he becomes a member of the community pool and we move on with our lives. I hope that all makes sense to everybody. That's the easy part. Getting into the idea of trading draft picks. I want us to be able to trade a keeper. But there's limitations to that. You can only trade a keeper that's being taken in the same round as the pick you give up. So if I have a 6th round keeper, I can only trade him for a 6th round pick. If that makes sense. And you can only have 2 keepers total on your roster. So if I sacrifice a draft pick to grab a 2nd keeper, say Justin Jefferson, if I choose to trade for Justin Jefferson and I have James Robinson, I can no longer trade for a keeper. I can trade draft picks all I want. I can trade one of the 2 keepers for a draft pick if I want. But I cannot put a 3rd keeper on my roster. I tried explaining that to Trump in an email, and he was a little confused. So I hope I explained that through voice a little bit easier. But we're going to put that up for vote. And I promise we won't use executive order to veto said vote. We're going to put it up for vote on whether you want it for this season, whether you want it, but not till next season. That gives everybody the chance to draft a roster, and that gives everybody a chance to analyze that roster throughout the season with that keeper in mind. Or you can vote no, I don't want it at all. Or you can vote no contest, as in I don't care what we do. I just want to play fantasy football, and your guys' rules are okay. That is not the answer I want people to give, because I want you guys to state your opinion. But if you just generally don't have one, that's fine too. So we're probably going to put that poll up on the league website. So if you haven't logged on to it yet, make sure you go back to that video where he sent the link. Click on it. On iPhones, I know for sure, so I'm sure it's on Androids as well. You can take a website link and you can turn it into an app on your home screen. I suggest you guys do that. Take that, turn it into an app so you have a shortcut and you can get to it super easy. And pay attention to that. If you haven't logged into your to the league website yet, I think last I saw there were 2 people that hadn't. Make sure you do that. Do it now. Like as soon as you close out of this, do it, please. That allows us to know that all 12 owners know what they're doing and know where they're at. And then we can start getting all the rest of the ball rolling. By now, the draft order has been set in motion. Congratulations to Foosball. Sorry you masturbate so much, but you got the first round pick, so whatever, I guess it works. And I am your lowly 12th rounder. Anybody who's interested in drafting 12th, let me know. We can work something out. Yeah, other than that, welcome again to the 2021 season. Best of luck to all of you. And yeah, the revenge train is coming. And you're all on the tracks.